Hey the rulers, welcome back to the last feature match before H2 releases. Today we are throwing in some oldie but goodies. We have Flicker Lumia with the new Rayman Infinite versus K1 updated Stealth. Let's go ahead and jump right in. This session brought to you by Odyssey Games for pre-orders and sealed product, CCG Prime for tons of singles and supplies, Cardo Doko for international rulers looking for product, and FoulLibrary.com for articles and wonderful deck lists, as well as our guest lecturer members Vite Ramen, King Pearl Shine, and Mognite. Class is in session. Okay, so we're getting in here. David Kuris is playing K1 Stealth with the rise in Resonator-based decks because of the contract rulers. A lot of the standby and stealth cards suddenly become a lot more usable. We're playing it against the Infinite Lumia list that actually took, this is pretty close to the Infinite Lumia list that took 9th place at the Uber series over in Spain, which was playing the same rules as Foulfest. So both of these stacks are currently operating under the Foulfest ban list, so there's no Origins, there's no Warhorse. Foulfest is over, but we recorded this pre-Foulfest, so that is what we're going for here. So Lumia is, using some of the more newer resonators that have enter effects and kind of abusing that as she's done before with like the flickers to get triggered those multiple times, and then K1 Stealth obviously is playing a lot of chance standbys and stealth cards, as well as some neat tricks with things like Magi Trooper to make some of the older standby cards feel a little bit better, which you'll see he has a couple of those in hand, and we'll get to it if it comes into play. So first up, we see a Black Silence. We see a card face down. Down comes the first card for K1, which is really nice, which is Prototype Magi Trooper. This helps us get out a body on first turn, which is really helpful for something like Nighttime Raiders. Nighttime Raiders working really well for something like Garion. Lumia also getting a Prototype Magi Trooper down here, so unfortunately, if he doesn't have a sealed One-Eyed Dragon, there's not going to be much of a way for him to get that Nighttime Raiders triggered. But, if I didn't have a body and that, it's the idea of like a Prototype Magi Trooper swings his share, it's only 100 damage. Great, well, here's a Garion, is the punish for letting that 100 damage go through. We do see 2 Will open here. We do see a Melder, Fallen Angel of Black Tears. And also another card that's very helpful has been Sacrificial Burial. He has to have a Resonator in graveyard to be able to target with that first, but Sacrificial Burial does help to get up to that 4 Magic Stones limit, which is what we want as to be able to trigger Mom and Dad a little bit faster. At the end phase, we're going to see Lucifer defeated One Wing come into play here, go up 5, down 5. This is one of the new resonators that Lumia can really abuse, especially because it has flying, so it's pretty safe early on to just kind of swing in the air for 4 and then flicker it, so each swing kind of is a 1,500 point, or a 1,400 point life swing, because it's 4 damage plus 500 life loss, and then another 500 life gain, which is nice. So both of these attacks are going in. He's going to take it. At the end of the turn, we're just going to go ahead and let Lumia do its thing. Flicker out the Lucifer. Lucifer comes into play, re-triggers its sensor effects, and serves as a blocker, taking it down to 25 and 5,000 respectfully. So you can see the deck can be very, very aggressive. It just needs to be able to flip, which we're looking at potentially being able to do next turn based on what happens here and if there's a Raymond in that hand. I'm kind of explaining how the Raymond Infinite loop works. If it goes off, now, David does have access to Lorite. Keep that in mind. That's actually pretty relevant here, especially to be able to stop the Infinite, being able to stop Lumia from being able to flicker something or something like that. He does decide to just go ahead and pass the turn. No Sacrificial Burial. He could go ahead and swing in here. It's just going to get blocked with Lucifer, but that's fine because it now sets up Sacrificial Burial, which is nice. So this also means that if he has any moms and dads in the graveyard, suddenly these might be very, very live. So Sacred Burial comes down here. Gets him a stone into play, putting him up to 4 stones, which is exactly where he wants to be for Ryza. And also gets that Prototype Magi Trooper back in hand and draws him a card. Says another face down card there, but there's a little bit of a misplay in the fact that he just left open his blue-black stone and not his blue-green stone. Because now Raymond's going to come into play off of a God's Art during my turn. So it's going to come in, give my whole board +2/+2 and Eternal, which means that the Raymond itself is pretty safe. And it also, unfortunately, means that we're probably pretty safe from any kind of stat nags. So we're going to start with a simple 400 in the air. Yeah, he's going to say that's fine. actually, we're going to go ahead and see the mom come down here. So Rice is going to come down. He's at 4 stones, like we said. No other resonators, so he can pay 1,000 life. He goes to get another card for face down. Probably going to be a dad, because he's now a Melder, because he's now under 2,000 life. So Melder can flip over and at least stop the damage from the Lucifer for the turn. There's a little bit of a problem of where he probably should have responded. He could have done this line in response to the activation like of the Rayman. So like Rayman's enter effect goes on the chase, so you flip mom, you flip dad. And the reason why you could do that is because if he has a second dad face down, he goes and grabs another mom there, which is not correct. But if you grabbed two Melders here, he could flip them both and kill both the Raymond and the Lucifer before the +2/+2 goes off, and have a 10/10, a 10/10, and an 8/8 body on board. And then I just have Prototype Magic Trooper. So then I couldn't go off for the Infinite this turn, and not only that, I would have also already burned the God's Art of the Raymond. So it's important to note here that Melder's going to flip because stealth cards specifically can be flipped the same turn they flip face up. At this point in time, because of the sequencing he's using it, he is just going to use it to prevent the damage from the Lucifer because it has Eternal. So he's just not going to take the 10 damage. Or the 4 damage floating in the air. But that doesn't matter because we have a white coin and a red stone and a 1 stone to be able to flip into Lumia. So Lumia naturally has swiftness, and whenever she attacks, I get to flicker something out and back into play tapped. But the way that works is I can target Raymond, flicker him out of the game, back into the game. He'll pump up Lumia and give her Eternal, but whenever he leaves the field, you recover a Jade Ruler you control, which means that then Lumia can swing again and flicker the Raymond, and then Lumia can swing again and flicker the Raymond, and Lumia can swing again and flicker the Raymond, and so you just have this infinite loop of Lumia just killing you. Unfortunately, that's what I'm saying about David unfortunately not having the wind will. If he had actually saved the wind resource here to be able to prevent Lumia's trigger to flip over the Raymond, I actually would have been in a much worse spot, and he probably would have been in a position of being able to maybe come back and win this game. But that is going to be the Lumia Infinite of attacks here in game 1, pushing us to a pretty solid quick game 2. So a little bit of a just mishandling of how to use those K1 stealth triggers. Like you saw, because everything was resonators, there were actually really good opportunities there for David to control the board a little bit better. It's just a matter of exactly figuring out the timing in this current day and age of when to kind of start using those abilities. You do see he has a Sign to the Future here. This is also very good. We do see that Prototype Magi Trooper come down. There's also that Dinner Time in hand, which is very, very cool. Dinner Time is a really cool trick for K1 because you can just Dinner Time, produce 3 will, and then use that 3 will to set 3 cards face down. And so it's a very easy way to just like suddenly have a bunch of standbys like ready to go on turn 1. Prototype Magi Trooper came down there. Dark Atlas came down at the end of the turn for me. Discarded a Pierre. Do want to give Tyler Tompkins a thank you for letting me borrow the Lumia deck for today. That's why you see there's the proxy of Pierre. Wasn't able to get this sleeved up in time, but I still wanted to get it recorded. Dark Alice swinging in, killing that Prototype Magi Trooper, and then at the end of the turn getting flickered, so even more draw power for Lumia here. Sacrificing the first Magi Trooper because I drew into another one, so that's just another free card, and then getting rid of a sealed One-Eyed Dragon. See a Black Silence, Prototype Magi Trooper coming down here. There is that Nighttime Raiders, that's pretty helpful. I imagine we might see a Dinner Time into set Nighttime Raiders plus Executioner plus Sign to the Future. That would be a pretty good line here. It'd give him a pretty good board cleared option, especially since Executioner can kill a 3-drop or less. It can also just kill Raymond. So if he tries to Goddard and Raymond, Executioner can just kill it, which is very, very helpful in this matchup. There are a lot of ways for Lumia to kill you outside of the infinite. There are a lot of crazy things like Keep the Faith to bring back and flicker over and over again a Cursed Spirit of Decay. There's also, like we saw, the Lucifer that was putting in a lot of pressure in the last game. And here it is again. So automatically right there at the end phase, we're going to see that 500 life point swing. And then next turn, it's probably going to be another, 15, 1400 kind of life point swing just off of that one card almost every turn. Down comes my own prototype Magi Trooper, drawing myself a card. Swing in with Dark Alice, seeing if that's going to be able to clear that prototype or if it's going to just get me a free 200 damage. We're going to go ahead and take it. And then in comes the Lucifer. Has to take it, goes down to 29. End of the turn, we're actually going to target the Dark Alice here, and I think the reason why is because we have Spirit of Decay and Keep the Faith in hand. So we want to try to instant speed get the Spirit of Decay to graveyard, so then we can start flickering it. So you see a very quick discard of a Darkness Witch and a Spirit of Decay to graveyard. That's probably going to be reanimated pretty quickly off of a Keep the Faith here momentarily. Now, keep in mind that he does have access, with Executioner, he does have access to then just jump in and kill. Because I played Prototype Magi Trooper this turn, there is a world where he could have, in response to the Lumia Flicker, flipped Executioner to kill the Dark Alice, so I miss out on the trigger from Lumia. It's important to note that Executioner can only be flipped if your opponent has played a Resonator this turn, so that's just something to keep in mind. He's playing against a non-green deck, so he's feeling a little bit greedy with this dinner time. We're going to go ahead and tap out to play a Garion. I think that was a little bit of a mistake not using the coin, since the coin is only blue, especially since he has a darkness source in hand. He could have left open a green-black, but we are going to see, in response to the Garion, just dump my hand full of one-drops, which is a Lucifer defeated one wing, and then probably a Keep the Faith as well to be able to grab that Spirit of Decay. Yes, so fully trying to put as much pressure as possible, saying, look, you got a Gary, and I'm not going to be able to cast one drops, but I sure am going to put a bunch of stuff on the board that is going to keep me alive, draining him 6 just off of the Spirit of Decay and putting 6 1/1 counters on him, which is almost enough to answer the Lucifer or the Garion just by itself. But if he blocks it all, it certainly is enough to answer the Lucifer, which puts him in a bad spot, or the Garion, which puts him in a bad spot. Do see a coin to go ahead and put another card face down. I believe that is the Executioner at that point, keeping in mind his hand is, I think, Nighttime Raiders and the Fallen Angel of Black Tears at this point. Fallen Angel of Black Tears is also a wonderful option to be able to grab off of Nighttime Raiders to just cheat in that amount of damage if you have a way for your Resonators to do damage during your opponent's turn. There is a red version of this deck that is playing Percival to be able to kind of banish it and kill your and like cheat it in that way. It is a little bit trickier when we have when you have so many decks running Wall, the Great Wall right now to make that happen, but it is an option. So Lucifer swung, got blocked by Garion, forced him to discard a card. Second Lucifer swung, successful. Spirit of Decay swings in for 7, takes him down to 7. And then we're probably just going to try to flicker. He's going to block with the Magi Trooper. We're going to say, that's fine. I'm not even going to try to use my counters here. Lumia targeting the Spirit of Decay to attempt to make that happen. He is down to only 1 Resonator. I have not played any Resonators this turn, so the Executioner there that's set down is not going to work, but he does have Keep the Faith, or Sign of the Future, which you can use here to, in response, go ahead and just remove from the game both the Lucifer and the Spirit of Decay. This is a pretty good move here, especially it's that idea of Lumia has now committed what she's trying to flicker, and so that's the point in time where you want to punish her. It is kind of one of her most vulnerable moments because it steals the 1 value that she generates as a ruler. In a really good spot. So this is a good play by David, trying to use these cards, especially since it gets them out of the game completely, just removes them from the game. Thinking about how I want to keep that Spirit of Decay in the graveyard, if at all possible. Which means probably killing itself. The Garion does have 400 damage on it. And so if I remove, playing this properly, I could remove 5 of the counters. I do have to remove all 6 of the counters to kill the Garian. And then I'm going to go ahead and pay 600 life to pitch a sealed one-eyed dragon to kill my own Spirit of Decay so that it hits graveyard instead of having to go to the RFG. We are going to lose the Lucifer, which is totally fine. But also we're going into a turn where I'm going to be able to reanimate that Spirit of Decay again. I'm going to be able to have even more cards in there, and we're in a pretty good spot. This is also a turn where right in that moment he doesn't have enough stones, unfortunately. If he was at 4 stones, that would have been a turn to probably go for Ryza and Melder, which is one of the reasons why, again, Sacred Burial is really, really nice for this deck, because it gets you to 4 stones that much faster, and 4 is that nice threshold for Mom and Dad. We do see a Nighttime Raiders potentially get put face down. Not much of a draw power here. He does have Mom and Dad, which is very nice. Now that he's at 4, he could flip that double Mom you see there. Probably wants to use it more in response to something. So he just needs to kind of wait and be patient and see what happens. Do you see I have a Raymond in hand? So we're actually at a point where David might be able to push back for lethal. The biggest issue being that there is that Spirit of Decay and a Keep the Faith that he doesn't know about. And he's pretty low on life. So those moms aren't going to be able to get him to grab him anything. They're just going to be bodies by themselves because he's lost life too fast. Keep the Faith's going to go ahead and target that Spirit of Decay. We're going to go ahead and attempt to be draining him for 9, taking him down to 5. We are going to see the Executioner come down in response to the trigger of the Spirit of Decay, which is smart. I mean, actually is going to sequence this a little bit differently, keeping in mind that the way, and I'm kind of explaining it here, you trigger Mom, in response to Mom, trigger Mom, in response to Mom, trigger Executioner. And the reason why is because Mom only triggers if you control no monsters. And so if you let that Executioner resolve, you can't put out the rises. And so this sequence is like you kind of have to blow everything all at once. He does lose 10 life at that point, though, because the Spirit of Decay will hit graveyard and he'll see an additional card. So that's not really great for him, especially since the only card in his hand is the Spirit, is the Fallen Angel of Fiery Vengeance. We're going to go ahead and swing with the Prototype. He does block it, so we draw into another card. You see we have an Angelic Battle Barrier there. We're going to go ahead and swing in with the Dark Alice. Say like, hey, maybe you take that. He's not going to take that. He's going to block it, which is totally fair. Pierre, we're going to see the whole reason why we're not just trying to go for, like you see I have the Raven Infinite and Lumia here, is because we're trying to see how much we can bait out of his hand. We're not in a risk. We're playing this kind of very, very safe. To try to also not overextend and kind of get ourselves. We want to find a guaranteed lethal here. So Pierre's going to come into play, attempt to swing, attempt to go into combat. He goes, oh, I got fallen into a Fiery Vengeance. That is a Melder. That's not going to do anything here for him right now. And so at that point in time, we're going to go ahead and actually just Judgment the Lumia, which will get us 2 more stones, which is very, very nice. Because those stones, the Awakened Magic Stone, the Earth will get to recover. That face down card is a Nighttime Raiders, so it's absolutely nothing. So David has currently no resources available to him. And we do see we have the Raymond there in hand. So we could Goddard the Raymond here and then just start swinging and go for the infinite. Ultimately, though, it looks like we're being a little bit more cautious, swinging for 10, knowing that he has to block. And we're going to go ahead and target the Prototype Magi Trooper and just try to draw into something maybe a little bit better this turn. Maybe like another Pierre or something like that. Prototype is going to draw us a card, and we're going to swing in for 10. He blocks with the Rise Up, goes to Graveyard. The next card we drew was a Sealed One-Eyed Dragon. We could just pace. We drew into a Sealed One-Eyed Dragon off of the Prototype Magi Trooper, but at this point in time, we're just like, you know what? The moms are already out. There's no more coming down. Let's just be super careful. I don't need to be that careful here by any means. The Sealed One-Eyed Dragon would have just been lethal. There's really nothing he can, like, that worst comes to worst, I pay 600 life. I go down to 38, and I'm not threatened by the lethal on board anyway. So we draw into turn. For recovery now, we're going to try to go in for the lethal here. We hit a Rayman God Art to try to flash him in. He goes, no. We're going to go ahead and Lorite in response. I say, that is fine. We can recover. The Lorite is burned. The God Art is burned. That's fine. Just to now know you have 0 cards in your hand, so let's just go ahead and safely stick the Rayman here by just casting him. And for 3, we will get the same trigger effect, and we will get infinite attacks, and that will close out the game. And so at that point in time, David extends the hand, and we kind of show what the rest of the hand was, just to kind of play safe. We also drew into another Lucifer, so I had a lot of ways there if he had some kind of response to find lethal, but he didn't need it. So that is it. Deck Profile Slate of this week, and until next time, class dismissed.